Hello and welcome to A Moment's Portal, a podcast where members of the Global Innovation Gathering share stories on global innovation. I'm Daniela Marzaban.
And I'm Stan Gay, and together we'll be hosting this second episode, taking you with us to a moment in the work and life of Gabi Agostini. Daniela, who is Gabi?
Today I brought us Gabi Agostini, an amazing woman, an amazing innovator, entrepreneur, community builder. She comes from Brazil. She's been with Global Innovation Gathering for a decade, I would say. And she has a contagious laugh, a beautiful smile.
Oh, thank you.
Are you ready to be the witness?
Yes, I am.
Good. Gabi, tell us something about your professional background.
Well, I study communication and I work as a journalist for a while, like decades ago. And at that time, I started to get involved with the digital. And I was more and more passionate about all this potential that the internet and the digital tools could have to give voice to people and give space for new ideas and build a more distributed society. You know, all this idea that we are like super excited in the beginning of the 2000s. And then I started to work in these fields, and a lot of projects connect to what was the impact of the internet and all these digital tools. And then I ended up like connecting with this scene of space, technological space where people could learn and making and hacking and try to change some paradigms and build like new things. And I was a kind of not feeling super well all the time that I was visiting spaces around like different contests, because I thought it was like super male and not like inclusive for persons like me, for people like me at that moment. So in 2013, I decided to open a space in Rio, the city that I was like, I moved at that time 2 years before to this city that was new for me. And then in 2014, we opened Olabi. That's a social organization. At that time was just like a space that we opened as a maker space to try to understand what we could do, trying to push some technological training in a more like open and inclusive and diverse perspective. And then we've been working since that. So it's been 8 years that we've been working with Olabi. We had space for a long time. We closed in the beginning of the pandemic. We are basically a social organization, work with diversity in tech. We have like a couple of different projects and we do a lot of things. And it's been, as you said, the connection with GIG and Olabi is super close, because basically was from the same time, you know. So the time that I was building Olabi was the time that I connect to GIG. So it was basically like everything grew at the same time. So a lot of like the community influenced me in the way that I'm thinking, you know.
That's very exciting, because now, after the introduction, I would like us to take the second part, which is A Moment's Portal. So, A Moment's Portal is a transportation device, and it's a transportation device by which you take us and the listeners to a moment where you truly felt carried by the Global Innovation Gathering community.
Wow, there are so many. I could stay like hours talking about moments, could we? But I remember one that was super important for me, and I think was something that made me feel so connected with GIG and all the people behind. Was in the first gig that I came to Berlin in 2014. And I didn't knew much what to expected. My English was really bad, and I was super nervous, you know, like understand what we're doing here, and you know, why should I say in every like dynamic and exercise. I was like, oh my God, should I go to the toilet and start to cry? And it's like maybe they invited
I
the
remember
wrong
we did a
person.
team building there, right, at the venue of the Republica, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe they found out that they invite
The
a
wrong person.
Maybe it wasn't me that's supposed to be here. And I felt, and then I shared this feeling with a lot of people, you know, like I was meeting people and say, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Maybe they made the wrong invitation. And when I was sharing with most of the giggers, everyone was so helpful. Like a lot of people, different people, members offered some help if I could like to translate my presentation. Some people like reviewed the slides that I had. So it was so nice to see that people was together and really like feeling the way that I felt and try to give me some support. Sometimes even emotional support. People are like, oh, but okay. We know that's not always like that. Sometimes people are just like networking and sharing ideas. And then was like something that I really admired. And I can see like how the gig community is building about this sense of caring, and the sense of belonging coming because of the sense of caring. We know that the people can support each other. And until nowadays, it's like that, like yesterday I was like in this workshop and Star in Pava was like really helping and together. Like you always look around and see someone who can give you a hand, and it's like, oh my God, it's great, because if something happens that I don't know what to do, like someone will come, and at least we are more than one, and we can do something, So yeah, I think it's about this sense. It's great to feel.
So I hear you telling about this community really caring for you, bringing you maybe the right materials for your workshop and just holding the space for you. I'm wondering who or what in your life would not be surprised about this story?
Whoa, that's difficult. Now I'm thinking like everything that I will do after here, I will think about this. Who would not be surprised? And also who would be surprised? Because you always have both, isn't it? Had this connection with like group of people. Since I'm super young, I really like to be connected in people, but just like not one by one, like this sense of group that sometimes you don't even need to be that close to one person because it's impossible to be connected to all of them, but the sense of group and how important it is and how everyone is work as part of something. So, I don't know, maybe my little child inside of me would not be surprised.
Okay.
Because I used to be like this one, like these small kids that knocking all doors in the street and say, hi, my name is Gabriela. Do you want to play? Is there any kids inside? And about you? And put everyone on the street. I used to be this kind of kid,
Oh, that's lovely.
So, probably not be surprised that I'm like 38 and I'm like going to events with group of people and doing picnics to say, hi, I'm Gabriela.
You want to play with me?
Maybe it's still the same. It's great.
Beautiful.
To be the same.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gabi. Do you want to share maybe a second story about when it was obvious to you that innovation is not just a Western affair?
Was great when I found out all these innovations coming from Africa, because of course as I'm from Brazil, that's not like with this totally mindset of about the North and everything. We can see and recognize innovations in our space and country. I already had this idea, but I was super disconnected with things come from Africa, all the continents and how many different things we have and how many different like tech scenes. When I arrived in the first day of the Republica meeting in the hotel.
Which year?
In Berlin, 2014, was like they put it before the AfriLabs meeting. Okay. That was a network of hubs in Africa. And so I could see and listen like to, I don't remember how many people was, but maybe 20, 30, 40, I don't remember, but it was kind of a lot of people. And from different countries and space, some people from universities, some people from things connect to government, some like small space, big space, some things more connected to market, some of them more like with the social side. And I remember Sheila from Kenya. I had like a super nice conversation to her at that time. And I remember that she was explaining and I was like making a lot of questions and I understood about all the Kenya that I've heard before. I read something, but like you don't have a lot of idea. And it was really good, to see how many things we have around the country and how they were working. And after I had the opportunity to go to Kenya in the hardware conference that Max and the ThinkSCon was a ThinkSCon in Kenya, in Nairobi. And I could go there and visit some of the things that people was telling for a few years. So it was great to recognize how similar of some things in Brazil in the way that we think and how different at the same time. So to understand the similarities and difference was super good. That's just one example. We could say a lot of them, but it was nice to materialize, because you can read an article, you can just talk with someone or see a talk in a conference. But when you are connecting in a way that you can make your questions and try to understand and have updates around the year, and after a few years visit the space, it's different, isn't it? It's another kind of connection.
It's a story about serendipity, actually, and about meeting someone. Sheila, we will put beneath the podcast a link of her space and a picture, and you will see the amazing, beautiful smile she has, and a very inspiring person.
And it's just to complement, was great on this story that I remember now this time that I went to Nairobi, and there in this conference that it's connected to gig members, Max and Simon, do you remember the ThinkSCon that was connected? I met there in Nairobi Dave Lee, there was a guy from China working in the hardware industry and some makers in Shenzhen. And I also had the opportunity to go there after. And I invited him into Brazil to 2 or 3 maybe different times. I think it was 2. To work in projects that I was there. So all this idea that you can... you meet one person here that introduced you to another one, to another one, to another one. So if I track a lot of contacts and think, even if I didn't meet straight away through the gig or in gig or Republica, I was if you track, was this person who introduced you to other, at some point is connected. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing these 2 stories. I think my main takeaways or the golden nuggets for me are being very nervous, thinking, so, my favorite quote is, I thought they invited the wrong person. And I felt carried and I felt like I belonged, and that your inner child would not be surprised about having all these people really caring about you and supporting you.
I think it's about be allowed to be vulnerable, isn't it? That's nice when you have that in an environment, in a community, in a group of friends, or in a work, doesn't matter where, when you can feel it's okay to be vulnerable. And
Across
I can even start to cry. And it's okay, I can just say, I don't know what I'm doing. It's fine. Yeah.
Especially if you're such a pioneer in your field, in your country. Did some counting. If you said in the 2000s and something, I was excited about it, and you're 38, everyone can do the counting when you actually really started to bootstrap and to pioneer in this area. So it takes a lot of courage and strength to be that small woman that is taking those steps and bootstrapping in this area. So it's really nice to have this community. Star, you've been the witness and the listeners with really big eyes and a big smile.
Yes, I have. I enjoyed the story, and what I get from Gabi's story is the community around gig and the support that the community around gig gives you, not just, networking, and it's just feedback and also personal support. They make you grow as a person. They are there with you, as your project grows, and that's my takeaway from this. And I'm really happy to see that, and that you had that experience with gig. I think that's a very beautiful story.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Gabi, thank you so much for being here with us. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, just giving a hug to you too. It's great to be here.
A Moment's Portal is hosted by Daniela Marzavan and Stan Gay. Sound and editing, Dominik Grignac. Technical support, Paweł Gay. Music by Monster Logo Studios.